So my name is Mudrock. I'm here at the Hobby Shop, which is my studio. Been recording bands for a long time, 30 years or more now. Godsmack, Avenged Sevenfold, Powerman 5000, Butcher Babies, Alice Cooper, Lou Barlow, Daniel Davies, a lot of different things. I've always kind of dismissed the amplifier in the box concept. I own a lot of guitar amps. I have a amplifier that Reinhold Bogner made me. I've, a bit of a guitar amp snob, and never really taken that stuff seriously. I've worked with various products made by other companies that I've thought sounded thin or brittle or, didn't hold up. And the Kemper is the first product I've used that during the course of the session you forget that you're not using an amplifier. There's always been something to remind me with other modeling or profiling. Well, I've never used a profiling amplifier before, but with other modeling amplifiers, there's always been something sonically to constantly remind me that, oh yeah, this isn't an amp. And oh yeah, it sounds pretty good for not an amp kind of thing. That's kind of the classic thing you'll hear. Oh yeah, it sounds okay for not being an amp. And with the Kemper, you just forget that, and you're thinking about music and takes. And one of the big things I would notice with other amplifiers or modeling amplifiers, is that if you roll back the volume on the guitar, suddenly they start sounding thin and cheesy, and the Kemper responds like an amplifier. It does all those things that you want an amplifier to do, or that you're used to an amplifier to do. And it takes pedals well. It has a weight to it, a gravitas to it, if you will, that I've never heard from another electronic amplifier. I did. When I first got the Kemper, I was very busy and didn't profile my own amplifiers for months. And one of the first projects I did was with an artist named Daniel Davies. He's the son of Dave Davies from the Kinks. And great guitar player, kind of majestic British classic rock feel almost. Les Paul player, great performer. And he came in and I was like, Daniel, we got to try this thing. And he's like, I don't know. And I was like, come on, we got to try it. And we plugged it in and scrolled through some presets, and he's like, that sounds good. Let's start making some music, and we started recording with it, and we recorded 6 songs together using just the Kemper and just presets that we got before I'd even modeled anything of my own. I remember a few days into it, Daniel shows up and he's kind of freaking out, and he's like, we gotta plug in an amp today. We got to plug in an amp. He's like, I'm a little nervous, and so we were doing, I forget what we were doing, but we spent like half an hour working on getting a guitar sound up, and then we were like, fuck it, let's go back to the Kemper. So that project, which is currently unreleased, he just got signed with it, and it's going to be coming out soon. Really sounds great. And at the same time, I was working with the Butcher Babies. And Henry from the Butcher Babies, great guitarist, really heavy. Some stuff on 6-string, some stuff on 8-string. We did some songs with my amps, and we did the songs in 3 batches. And as soon as the second batch of songs, we were like, all right, we're going to try the Kemper. And from then on, it was the Kemper. And really just kind of like didn't turn back after that. Well, what I've been doing with it, how I've been working with the Kemper right now is a combination of miking my amplifiers, which I'm not about to throw away my amplifiers, but also as I get guitar sounds up, capturing them and profiling them. And in that way, I'm building up a library of sounds that I consider intrinsic to my style as a producer. And on a workflow basis, it's great because if I'm working on a song and we record guitars on it and then I profile it and then we change something later on, we don't have to chase that guitar sound again. That guitar sound is there waiting for us. And in addition to that, I can also bring in sounds that I'd created for different projects into the next project along the road. So as I work more and more, my palette increases, and on strictly a workflow kind of basis, I might not try to get up a certain guitar sound for a project if it means that, oh, that guitar sound I got up was 2 different amplifiers, mic'd with 4 mics, and through this and that and the other thing. But if I can say to myself, oh, that guitar sound is sitting in that box that I can push a button and there it is, then I'm much more likely to use that. And so creatively, it's a great tool in terms of freeing you from the constraints that just physically not wanting to perform that work again, or not having the time to, or your guitarist has to leave at an hour and a half. And also in terms of tracking guitar on remote locations, it's been great. We don't need to use up the big room for tracking guitars. Guitars can happen anywhere. They can happen in a booth. They can happen on a laptop in the lounge area, and not suffer sonically because of that. So it's been a great help in terms of workflow. I definitely have been seeing a pretty widespread acceptance and embracing of the Kemper through the metal community. I think that's I think that the road is kind of paved for that because they're always embracing new technology in terms of how to make something sound heavier. I also see a real embracing of it in the pop world, because pop music is moving back towards real instruments. 5 or 6 years ago, pop was really driven, very synth driven, very little real instruments, maybe a token guitar part here and there. But more and more with artists like Bruno Mars and Maroon 5, you'll see much bigger role being played in the arrangements by actual played instruments. And that's a community that's making records in booths and in offices and in bedrooms and that kind of thing. They're moving away from the big tracking room kind of thing. And I'm seeing a real flowering of the Kemper being used in that genre. I think that the more traditional guitarists, the guitarists who are kind of don't feel right unless they have a name brand from 30 years ago in their hands and sitting behind them, they'll get there. They'll come along. So after using the Kemper for a few months and just using what was in there, I started realizing that I was selling it short by not doing one of the things that it's really great at, which is profiling your own equipment. And again, the jury was out with me until I tried it. And one of the first things I did was profile my Bogner Uberschall, and using Henry from the Butcher Babies for as the guitarist. He came over for an afternoon and we spent some time. And it really impressed me how easy it was, how quick it was, and how successfully it happened. The other thing that really impresses me is that you get a preset up in the Kemper, and as you move further away from the settings that the amplifier was at when you profiled it, you can get into territories where you can find sounds that didn't exist in your amplifier. I profiled my Lab Series L2, which is an old solid state amp, and it's a clean amp. It doesn't get distorted at all. That profile sounds great distorted. And so there's a sound that wouldn't exist in my palette if it wasn't for the Kemper. So not only can you capture what you have, but it opens up another area of those things that you had that wouldn't have existed if it wasn't for the Kemper. Because as you get farther away from the preset sounds, you're getting farther away from the amplifier you profiled. but it never becomes unuseful. It's not like it gets farther away in a digital way or in a harsh way. It just becomes its own thing, which is great. Technology like the Kemper, I see it as really helping the march of progress. And, whenever there's a new something, a classic example is the drum machines have no soul bumper stickers that you see everywhere. And I've never subscribed to that, because a drum machine is a tool that you can make sounds with it that you can't make with a drummer. And a drummer is a human being, and you're never going to replace a human being. And I see that with the Kemper. I see the Kemper as being a really powerful tool for both live performance and studio recording. I see it as something working hand in hand with guitar amplifiers. One of its great features is that you can capture guitar amplifiers, and you couldn't do that if you didn't have an amplifier. So I don't see it as this dark horse that's usurping the role of anything. I see it as a incredibly powerful and natural feeling and sounding tool that will help people everywhere make music, and will help musicians make great guitar sounds when they can't crank up a loud amplifier. And it will help the home recordist. It will help the touring musician. Imagine having your studio guitar rigs available to you on your tour bus. Imagine having your live rig available to you wherever you can carry a Kemper. So if you're not thinking of it in those terms, I suggest maybe you think of it in terms of that, and not in terms of, they're trying to replace guitar amps, because that's not what it's about. It's another powerful tool for making music. And I really look forward to hearing what Kemper continues with it, because every time they come out with a new update, it's more usable and more solid, and I'm really excited to be a part of it from the early days.